Hi, this is Winston again. Um, I'm going to be doing a new series on a variety of issues. So this will be my first one. Um, Today in this video I'm going to be debunking the myth of freedom and democracy in America. And I'll also provide an essay I wrote about it in the link section in the description box below, which you can read and follow up, which will contain a lot more points and examples. Because in the video I might not remember all my points and examples, but I'll give it a shot. But you can always follow up in that link. And I'll also give a few supporting videos in the description box for you to follow up as well and get more info about this topic. Okay, first we're going to talk about the myth of freedom in America and also the myth of democracy. We'll cover those two areas. Okay, now, as to freedom, what I've never understood is why America thinks it's such a free country in a way that it's the only country that's free and all the other countries don't have freedom, as if it's a shining beacon of freedom that all the other countries wish it had too, which implies that other countries don't have freedom and only America does. That belief or that idea is not based on anything that's legit or reasonable or logical. I mean, in reality, every country has laws, rules, and regulations that you have to follow, and America is no exception. In America, there's a lot of laws you have to follow, rules, regulations, and if you don't, there's penalties. You'll get punished. That's the same as in any other country. So how exactly are you more free in America than anywhere else? I mean, it's never explained. Instead, people chant it like it's some kind of religion that they believe simply because they're told, and they just chant it like a mindless robot. I mean, America actually has one of the most sophisticated and effective forms of mind control in the world. And in that sense, if the country is more mind controlled than countries in other, than other countries, then in that sense it's less free than the rest of the world, not more free, because mind control takes away your mental freedom as well as your ability to think for yourself. Now, so basically, most countries are not a dictatorship. Okay, in most countries, as long as you follow the laws and pay your bills, you can do what you want. That's the same as in America, as in any other country. So what's this freedom that America has that other countries don't? I mean, it's totally baseless. One example Americans like to use is that in America you can say what you want under freedom of speech, and you can speak out against the government and not get arrested. Well, you can do that in France too, in England, in Germany, in Australia. You can do that in a lot of countries. But the thing is, those countries are not going around claiming to be the epitome of freedom and democracy like America is. So why is America the only one that's boasting itself as the only country that has any freedom? It doesn't make any sense. And when I was in high school, I always wondered about this because, I mean, you're told you're living in a free country when you're in high school, and you're told that in history class and economics class, etc., and by your teachers. But in high school, I mean, life is like a prison. Everything is controlled, and your schedule is strictly set. You got to be in class when the bell rings, otherwise you get a tardy point, and you have to stay after school after that. And if you don't turn in your homework, you get penalized. And there's a ton of rules and regulations and homework, and there's no freedom at all in high school. So why are we told that we're free? I mean, it's like what you're told and how you're living are in complete contradiction. I guess in the world there's a lot of hypocrisy and contradictions like that, where you're told one thing but given another. But this is definitely an example, where you're told that you're free, but you're not given any freedom. I mean, you're really not given any freedom in America, especially in high school. So why do they keep telling you that you're free when you're not? It's ridiculous, and it makes no logical sense. Um, so I mean, this is one example. And another way of measuring freedom is by your wealth, because the more money you have, the less you have to work. And in that sense, if you have enough money, you can buy your freedom by being able to take care of your bills and free up your time without having to work at a job. But if you go by that standard, America is less free than in most countries, because America is a very expensive place to live. I mean, the rent prices, the mortgage prices, the housing prices, and especially the healthcare costs are very, very high compared to most countries. So the cost of living in America is higher than in most countries. So by that standard, I mean, it takes a lot more money to buy your freedom in America than it does other countries. So by that standard, America is less free than most countries, not more free. So this belief that America is the only free country out there, just that makes no sense. Plus, if you ask immigrants that go to America why they came there, they'll tell you that they came there to make money, or to get an education at a prestigious university or something. You can ask any Mexican immigrant, and they'll tell you that too, or Asian immigrant. They came there to make money. They didn't go there because it's the epitome of freedom and democracy. That's something that Hollywood says, but immigrants in real life don't say that. So Hollywood and reality are again in contradiction, because immigrants do not say that they came to America for freedom and democracy. That's what Hollywood says, and that's what the U.S. culture says, and the media tries to paint that myth for some reason, even though it's not true. I mean, people do not come to America for freedom. I mean that's something you only see in the movies. It's completely baseless. I can show you a lot of testimonials from immigrants that'll tell you that's totally groundless. But anyways, I mean, to me, real freedom means that you can wake up every day and do what you want, especially if you love what you do. I mean, you see, when you have a job, you have to wake up early and be there at a certain time and perform, and then take your lunch break and then be off. So your life is really controlled by someone else or another corporation. So most people who work, I mean, don't really have any personal freedom, because they're slaves to their work. They're living, and a corporation is basically, as Noam Chomsky said, a private dictatorship. Where it's you go in and punch a time clock, and you're in a private dictatorship. I mean, and you answer to that dictatorship, and your life is controlled by it, and your life is tied to where you live and where you work by that job. So it's better to be self-employed or to make ends meet another way. I mean, if you're working for someone else, you're basically a slave to that person. I mean, but of course, if you really love what you do, then it might not feel like slavery. But that's a different story. But anyways, most people do work for someone else, and when they wake up, they don't get to do what they want. I mean, they have to slave away to get money. They got to submit to employment. So, I mean, most people are not really free, even if their government or culture says you're free. So, I mean, again, it doesn't matter if the government tells you that you're free. If you're not waking up and doing what you want, then you're not free. That's the reality. I mean, again, I mean, I mean, you can be told that you're free, but not given any freedom. So basically, I mean, you gotta. I mean, that is the true measure. I mean, if I wanted to wake up at 10 a.m., cook my own breakfast, go for a walk in the park, for example, then and I don't have the freedom to do that because I have to be at work at 8 a.m., then I'm not free. I'm living as a slave, Um, but society does not define freedom that way. Society defines freedom, as the freedom to work and the freedom from a foreign dictatorship, which makes no sense because it doesn't matter whether a foreign dictatorship, is controlling your government or not. For example, after the American Revolutionary War, the colonies were not any more free because they still had a government to answer to, namely the American government. And there's little reason to believe that the American government treated people better than the British government did. Whether the American government is ruling you or the British monarchy, either way, you're under some government, so it's basically the same thing, So it doesn't make sense to say that you're free because some foreign government doesn't rule. Either way, if it's not one government, it's another. So that really made no sense. This idea that you're free because your country's not under a foreign dictatorship. And of course, society says you're free because you're free to work, which means, which is a spin on words because it assumes that you live to work and that you want to be a slave, So you're free to work and be a slave. That doesn't make sense either. That's not true freedom. Anyways, okay, let's move on to the democracy issue. Now, there's never been. There's no such thing as a real democracy, and let me tell you why. A democracy technically is ruled by the people, and there's no country on earth that's completely ruled by the people, especially not America. The evidence is very clear and simple. What the American people want, for example, doesn't matter because they don't get what they want. What the American people want does not dictate policy. Policy is dictated by the elite, the few corporate interests at the top, and so, for example, Americans don't want more taxes, but the government keeps raising taxes. In fact, Americans didn't want the income tax, the amendment, the 13th Amendment that brought in the income tax. People didn't want that, but the government was brought it in anyways. So. And also look at the Vietnam War and the Iraq War. People didn't want that, but the government went in and did it anyways because it needed that war for its own interests, its own agenda. So the will of the people is not being done in America. Policy is not dictated by the will of the people. So how is America ruled by the people? It's not. Instead, they just have this charade called an election. You can vote, but it doesn't make a difference because the two parties you have to choose from, the Democrats and the Republicans, are basically representing the same interests. They represent the same corporate elite interests. So it doesn't matter which one you vote for, but they try to trick you into thinking that they're different by giving you these social wedge issues that they debate on, which don't really matter, such as gay rights, abortions, school prayer, gays in the military. They don't really matter to our personal lives, really. But they're social wedge issues to try to trick you into thinking that there's some real debate going on between the two parties, when they basically represent the same interests. So that's how they trick you. It's just a charade, and of course politicians, whether they're in Congress, the Senate, or the presidency, have to vote a certain way, that the oligarchy wants them to devote. Otherwise, there's consequences. They can get offed like JFK was, or they get blackmailed, by someone exposing dirty secrets about them if they don't do what they're told. So everything in America is strictly controlled, even at the top, even with politicians. So there is no real democracy. And in fact, America was never set up as a democracy. The founding fathers intended it to be a republic. And if you look at the Declaration of Independence, you'll see that the word democracy does not even appear in the Declaration of Independence, because the founding fathers did not believe in a democracy. So that's why they set up America as a republic. Now, in the description box below, I posted a link to a video called Republic versus a Democracy, and it explains why America was set up as a republic, not a democracy, and why the founding fathers did not believe in a democracy. And that's really shocking, because that's totally different than what the U.S. culture and media tells you. So yeah, watch that video. It's very informative, and it'll explain to you why America and its founders was set up as a republic. In fact, there are only two stable forms of government in the world. One is a republic, and the other is an oligarchy. A republic is ruled by law, and an oligarchy is ruled by the elite, ruled by the rich, the top corporate interests. And it's also known as a corporatocracy, which is a rule by the giant corporations, which control the government and the media. And that's what America is too. It's a corporatocracy and an oligarchy, not a democracy, no way. So, America started as a republic, and then gradually it became an oligarchy, just like the Roman Empire did. And that's why it's going into a decline, because an oligarchy is not democratic at all, and it's inherently corrupt, very corrupt. There's a quote by some Chief Justice, for example, that says, "We can have democracy or concentrated wealth in the hands of the few, but we can't have both." And that's very true. Since America has concentrated wealth in the hands of the few, then it can't be a true democracy. Okay. But in fact, a true democracy is not necessarily a good thing, because the Greeks tried it, and it turned out to be a mob rule. Because the majority of people are like a mob. Their opinions swing like the wind. And so when you have a mob rule, it's not very stable or productive. So a democracy is not necessarily a stable form of government, and the ancient Greeks tried that, and it failed, actually, because a mob-ruled government was never stable, and it turned out not to be a good thing. And that's also explained in the video I posted in the link below, too. So basically, yeah, just like for the freedom thing, there's no logical reason to believe that America is a democracy either. So these claims that America is the epitome of freedom and democracy are totally baseless. See my essay for more info. Okay, well, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.